Oh, hi. About a half hour ago, my flight to Barcelona for the weekend got cancelled. Boo-hoo me. And I thought, what better time to record my first YouTube video when my camera hasn't arrived, my equipment hasn't arrived. But why not? Let's start now. And yeah, just get to know you, because I plan on spending quite a bit more time on YouTube on this side of the screen in the coming future. And I just thought, let's get the bad pancake over and done with, and get to know each other a little bit. I will say first, my hair never looks like this. I had it in braids to travel. I'm not traveling anymore. And this is how it looks now. But before you feel too sorry for me, I'm booked on a flight. But yeah, my name's Emily. And I'm here with my first video to get to know you. Coming up on this channel, she's a fashion girl. We're going to talk all things fashion, specifically what I'm calling, I guess, intuitive fashion, mindful fashion. I've not invented these terms, but I'm a sensitive soul. I've had anxiety my whole life and had a whole journey in overcoming it that I'm pretty proud of, I have to say. Clothing and self-expression has been a huge part of that journey and is a tool that I believe is incredibly powerful, and I think a lot of beautiful things can happen when we cherish and love our clothing and dress mindfully and with intention and use it as a superpower to boost ourselves when we have to go out there and face all those things. So that's what you can expect to come from here. Everything from outfits and hauls or styling from sort of a personal stylist near you, all the way to self-growth and improvement and reflection and vlogs, and just having this be a joyful, mindful, creative space that will complement me as a personal stylist, basically. It's really there to kind of complement my business as a stylist, but also honestly, because I just really want to create stuff. I grew up watching all the YouTubers and thought about doing it for far too long, and I'm now giving myself permission. So if you're in the same position, maybe this is your sign to go record your bad pancake. But for now, get comfortable. I think this is going to be a put it on while you get ready kind of chat. And this is going to be a, as you've probably already read, tattoo tour. Because we're multifaceted in this place, and what better way to get to know each other than through my tattoos, right? So yeah, as I said, I introduced myself a little bit. Fashion girl. I am living in and from Switzerland. I'm also half Irish, on my dad's side, if you're wondering. And I'm gonna talk to you about my tattoos. So let's just rattle through them. I'm gonna go somewhat in chronological order. But anyone who has quite a few tattoos, I don't know if you consider me heavily tattooed or not, I have about 20 plus, but they range from being teeny tiny to more significant, will know that the timeline gets fuzzy after a while. Even though I say that they're timestamps, and they are, I'm not always good at getting them in the right order. So forgive me on that, but let's rattle through. I'm going to try and be efficient and just do the classic, like, this is what I got, this is how painful it was, this is why I got it, and really just stop at the ones that I think have something to say in this video. So, starting at number 1, at the ripe old age of 18, I think I literally booked it at 17 for like the day after my 18th birthday. I was so ready to get my first tattoo, and I got a dragonfly, beep, on my ankle. And I think, as many people do with their first tattoos and more, I put my confidence in meaning giving it longevity. I had more faith in a meaning staying relevant to me and staying sort of poignant to me than an aesthetic would. And I guess I wasn't really informed or hadn't really developed a view on tattoos at that age that I could get that I felt like would either grow with me or felt really represented who I was, because I didn't know who I was yet. I mean, I don't now either, but I feel like I've gotten pretty good at getting things that speak to me and continue to as I grow with them. And you will hear me say that I love all my tattoos, even the ones that didn't go according to plan, as you'll hear, because honestly, I just love that I'm alive and able to get them, and I have spent, like so many of us, too many hours criticizing my God-given self. And so I'm not going to sit here and spend too much longer criticizing my chosen self, because that's been over and done with. So I'm not always the best at practicing what I preach, but that is why you will hear me say that I love them all, despite the variety of journeys that got me them. So yeah, that dragonfly tattoo has meaning because on my dad's side, my grandfather, who I didn't get to meet in this life, unfortunately, but he still managed to pass down some wisdom, used to tell a beautiful story about a dragonfly and its representation of heaven and earth with a pond, and it spoke to me a lot. It was kind of, it's just a family symbol, you know, and family's huge for me. I'm very fortunate to have a really healthy, loving family that I grew up with, so that felt like a pretty safe bet to ink in there. And yeah, I got that. It also was, to put it concisely and short for today, the light at the end of the tunnel of a particularly dark time of my life, which I can imagine myself going into in the future. I've become more and more open about these things, but we're trying to keep it a bit more short and snappy for today. So that was my first tattoo. I then got a tattoo on my ribs, which was a mandala. You'll also learn that I don't know my own accent, so I do come across words that I don't know how I pronounce. More on that another day. So I got this mandala, still don't know how to pronounce it, on my ribs, and this was at a time where the tattoo space, at least to me in my experience, was a lot more intimidating, and it was a much harder space to advocate for yourself and what you wanted. It was a lot of very kind, burly men with, you know, the traditional flash covering the walls, a motorcycle in the corner, and you really had to earn your space there, and it was they know and you don't, so whatever they say goes, and it was a lot harder, as I said, to advocate if you maybe weren't sure about something. And don't get me wrong, I still really trust artists because they know what they're doing, but you got to be able to have a bit of rapport with them. And with this one, I had an expectation that I would be experiencing a really sort of custom design. So at this point, I'm only in custom tattoos. There's no flash. And I didn't really get that. He did all these amazing, intricate mandala works of like different ones overlapping, and I really wanted something kind of organic to fit to my body. And I found this Celtic symbol because, again, I was trusting that I should put meaning into these tattoos, at least for the time being. And I'm half Irish, so I found this symbol that talks a lot about 3 and femininity, and I'm one of 3 sisters, so that's a really core part of my identity, and it spoke to me. That's all it had to do, is it spoke to me. But I guess I was kind of expecting him to really like infuse this into the intricate mandala pattern, whereas what he did is he did a round mandala, as they are, and put it in the middle. And that's fine, but it probably wasn't really what I was hoping for, and I do remember being slightly underwhelmed when he showed me. I really had the sense that he was particularly uninspired by this idea, which, alright, but I think, and this is what I mean by, like, I still love them, even though I get them in a weird situation, that if it happened now, I would definitely talk to the artist about it. I was no way feeling confident enough to do that at the time. But I still love it, because I got it, I was just so figuring this stuff out at the time. My best friend came with me, and it felt so rebellious, and it felt so, not dangerous, but I guess brave, and, you know, my anxiety was pretty peak at that time, so it was a pretty out there thing to do. I felt like I was feeding that kind of, like, rebellious part of me, and it felt very adventurous, and I really hold the memory of myself at that time dear. Like, I kind of look back at it in a really, like, gentle, fond way for that girl, and the friendship, like, that best friend that came with me is now my maid of honor for my wedding. So, you know, like, there's just no way I can't look back on that fondly. And so that's what I got. But from an aesthetic point of view, I did quite quickly feel like it was missing something. It felt too kind of placed on me as a circle. And so I got the flowers on the side of it. I love flowers deeply. I would cover myself in them if I could. And I've made a solid attempt at it in some ways. And so that felt like a really natural thing to do. And I loved this edition. I still do. It sticks out of tops here into the armpit. And I just felt like that was cool. It was at a time where the low slung tops were really in. It also comes towards the front. It made me feel tattooed, and I loved that. And so yeah, this was a cool points for me. I should have mentioned pain, sorry. The dragonfly was literally like a 2. It was just new and uncomfortable, but I barely felt it. The mandala was actually quite painful. Like, I recall him being quite heavy-handed and really holding my friend's hand. It's also the ribs. So that and the flowers, I would say, were both at a like, I think because I also couldn't handle it so well at the time, I'm gonna go with like a 6-7 out of 10. On the tattoo pain scale, not in like the things that have happened to me in my life scale. So yeah, that was pretty sore. I then got, and this is where my order is going to go fuzzy, but it feels natural to go to my sternum next. I got a rose on my sternum. This was again a really lovely like time to look back on in a very tender way. It was just a bit of a, I don't know, an I'm an independent woman moment. I did it quite spontaneously. I went by myself. I didn't tell anyone, which is very unlike me. I would normally talk to a lot of people about it beforehand and gauge it and think about it and overthink it. And this was just me going and being like, you want it, you get it. And I did, and it felt amazing. And yeah, it feels like that breadcrumb in the journey of me becoming who I am now and who I will be, and it feels like a very poignant breadcrumb in that journey. And so yeah, I really like it for that reason. So that was the sternum. That was definitely painful. Sternum hurts. Yeah, probably like a good 6 or 7 again. I went to Paris with the same best friend that I got the rib tattoo with, and I got this one, which is like a hand holding flowers. And this is a great example of getting a tattoo that's a trend at the time, but a classic for you. I think that's very possible. Like, I think that's something that'd be really interesting to talk about, maybe even on this channel, is kind of getting tattoos and making those choices that will really kind of resonate with you over the longer term, and how that, you know, whether it's fashion or anything, you know, finding your intuition amidst any kind of aesthetic trend-driven area, whether it's tattoos or clothing or hair, can be really hard because you're constantly reacting to things that are thrown at you and imagery that's thrown at you. And so with this one, I do feel like it was kind of trendy, not gonna lie, but it's so me, and it stayed so me. I love that I got her to add like long nails to the hand, because the state of my nails and the state of my mind are very intertwined, so it felt very poignant. And yeah, it was 2 girls in Paris together, beautiful time of life, and again, one to cherish. Then let's rattle through some more. I have an olive branch, pain, I mean like a 3, maybe? I really don't remember it being that painful. I have an olive branch on my ankle. That was like a 2 pain. Ankles are dead easy to me. It feels really beautiful and like organic to me. It feels like, that's what I love about the tattoos I get more recently and as I've gotten older, is they feel really organic, like they feel really natural to get. They feel like if I was a character, I'd be born with them, which maybe sounds weird, but yeah, so love that one. I also got a little, where'd she go? Here. Little potion with some crystals in it. I think that tells you everything you need to know. A little bit of magic. A love note. Words of affirmations is definitely a huge love language for me, whether it's by text or voice note or written word or song. So I knew I was going to get that. The 2 of these are definitely a little more heavy-handed than I tend to go these days, but as I said, didn't stop me loving them. I got my wings. Oh, pain. So bad at this. Inner arm is horrible. Horrible. So 8 for this one. So painful. And probably a good 6 or 7 for this one. I got my fairy wings, which weren't painful at all. They were like a 4. And I love my little fairy wings. My dragonfly was a symbolic thing in my family on my dad's side. The fairy wings are a symbolic thing on my mom's side. Not the fairy wings, sorry. Butterflies are symbolic on my mom's side. And so it kind of just made sense to one day sort of put that on my body somewhere. I just kind of trusted it would come to me naturally, whether it was in a literal butterfly or something a bit more interpretive. And yeah, I love what it ended up as, and it has that kind of fairy feel with the placement as well. So fairy wings there. Actually, the artist that did those wings, she did these when she was an apprentice, which is incredible. And she's blown up now, which I'm just so happy for her, and she's so well deserved. But she also gave me another beautiful tattoo, which is my little brave sword. And this one I will take a minute for because it's a huge one for me. So I'm getting married. This isn't my engagement ring. This is temporary because I'm waiting for my engagement ring to come back from having a service. But my fiance is from Ecuador. And so we go back to see his family, and we'll go back as much as we can. It's obviously a pretty long trip. I wish I could go more. But we went on a trip to the jungle, and it was an absolute life-changing trip for many reasons. And that's where I got my little dagger brave, as I called it, as is the poem that I wrote about it. As I said, that's kind of a way that I do things. But this really represents my journey with bravery as someone who has anxiety, who has fought with intensely fear-based anxiety for her whole life, and who has categorically misinterpreted bravery for a very long time. I used to view it, as I think many of us do, as something that is kind of obnoxious in its kind of energy, and something that's very outward, very loud and kind of thrill-seeking, when actually inherently bravery, at least if you ask me, is about doing things, it's facing fears. And so to me, therefore, there's nothing brave about doing something that doesn't scare you. And so if you're not scared of heights and you jump out of a plane, it's cool, but it's not about being impressed, but, I think when we talk about bravery, we have this vision that comes to mind. Then actually, if you are terrified of having a vulnerable conversation, then it's going to take a lot of bravery for you to do that. If you're scared to post yourself on the internet, it's going to take a lot of bravery for you to do that. And so defining my own bravery and watching myself explore it is something that has been incredibly rewarding and something that I can be really proud of. And I know as women especially, we're not very good at being proud of ourselves, but I think I earned that one. And so I got my little dagger brave, and it does help that it also looks like it could be kind of a girl hobbit feel. Don't mind that either. So that's my little dagger brave. And then what are we missing? My moon. I'm one of three. I'm one of three sisters, and that is an integral part of my identity. And again, a great source of pride for myself. We each got a moon together in Canada when we were there together, each our own style, and it, of course, means a lot to me. I think the most interesting thing about this tattoo is it's not the only one, but the one that has the most evolved the most with me. And I don't know if that's due to the fact that it's just so minimalistic in style that it has that ability, but it's a tattoo that with each chapter and edition of myself that I evolve into, I feel could have been a new tattoo, and one that version of me would have picked. Unlike others that really kind of stay stuck in time in that beautiful way, but that really like time stamp you, this one feels like every day that I wake up, I could have been getting it that day. And I think that's really interesting, and it's something that means it's just kind of forever and timeless in a whole different kind of way. And so, yeah, I obviously love that one. I look at it a lot. It's very grounding. My sisters and I sometimes will just send each other a picture of it just to be like, hey. And so, yeah, that's obviously a no-brainer that it means a lot. And right next to it is a little piece of writing. So I have mentioned that my way of processing things is very much creatively. It's quite privately, but it is creatively. I write poems, I write songs, I play guitar, I can paint, all in an average okay way, but enough to do it. And my first experience of kind of real grief, I did have it with pets, and I'm not putting that down because wow, but really experiencing someone close to me passing away was my grandmother. And I mean, how fortunate, because you know, she was 93, so there was no tragedy to this grief, but it was new to experience for me, and it rocked a lot of us. And I found out, and I was here, and my dad headed off to Ireland with my mom, and so I had about a day or so here by myself, and it was so quiet, and I sat here and I wrote a song. I just felt like the only thing I could do. I wasn't going to sit and watch TV. I couldn't do nothing. I didn't want to go for a walk. I didn't know what to do with myself. And so I sat and I played guitar and I wrote this song. And I recorded it on my phone and I sent it to my sisters in a way of sort of, again, communicating with them how I was doing and what I was feeling, and just saying, hey, I wrote this and it helped me. Maybe it'll help you too. And that was that. And I then got to Ireland for the funeral and everybody knew the song. And I get shivers till this day telling the story, because that was the moment it stopped being my song and it became our song. And it is a incredibly poignant part of my life. It's an experience that taught me a huge amount about life and death, to be honest. But it speaks to me on a lot of levels. I think it taught me a lot, even in hindsight, in terms of just even how, I guess, my like place in this world. And yeah, it was really big for me. And it was a very magical time capsule moment that I feel privileged to have been part of as part of my family. And even though it's the dinkiest little one in this list, it's probably packs one of the biggest punches in terms of what it means and does for me. So I don't know if you can read from the picture, but it says, "Hold my heart." It's one of the lyrics from the song. And I also love it as a lyric for myself, because if you've not gathered by now, quite a sensitive person, and "hold my heart" is quite a phrase that speaks to me. So yeah, thank you for taking a journey down that one with me. I will wrap this up now with the last ones here that I guess the most visible and maybe of interest. I meant to say, pain-wise, neither of these were painful. They were really nothing, and they took no time at all. So I guess a 2, a 1 for both of those. But yeah, here I got these robins first, separately to the rest of this, but it is the same artist, you might be able to tell. A symbol for my husband-to-be and I is 2 birds. That's kind of our thing. And so we might talk about that one day, let's see. But when I saw this flash, I had to get it. Robins are also a really big symbol in my family. So these 2 little robins on a branch, they were mine as soon as I saw them. And so I got these, and as soon as I experienced this artist and her work and how just beautifully delicate it is, and I've had this for a few years. I know it's not really much in tattoo land in terms of aging, but we will see. But I love it, and so I knew I wanted her to do the rest of my arm. And so I had her essentially connect my whole arm into this connected patchwork, I guess is the best way to put it, and she did an incredible job. So she added the 2 cranes, there's one here and one up here, the red thread, red soulmate thread, if you know about that story, you can look it up, it's beautiful. All these little charms, and obviously the peonies through it, and there's a very subtle pink, I don't know if you can see that, but a very subtle amount of pink to them. Yeah, and I really love it. So I guess I don't need to spend too much time on that. Pain-wise, however, real talk, this took about 10 hours, and I did it in 1 session. So in and of itself, obviously a variety of pain, because we have a lot of different placements here. It wasn't too bad. I would say it was like on average of 4 to 5. I dozed off it sometimes, like, because it was a long time I was there. There were certain parts that were really painful. So this part right here, the inner arm, like, you know, these are the ones I said were painful, hurt a lot. That really hurt. I had to really brace myself and like meditate through it. The top bit here, less painful and more awkward as a place to get done, because just kind of like stand over you. But yeah, I'd say for the rest of it, some parts here were a bit more tender, up to like a 6, but it really wasn't too bad. It was more the length of it that felt really intimidating. And so we wrapped this up, this little half hour of your time, with my latest tattoo, which is opened up this arm. So for anyone who does get tattooed, you'll know what that means. We've opened up some extra real estate, which we really need to think about. As I mentioned, my fiance, husband-to-be, and I are a symbol together as two birds, and so we got wedding tattoos. And so this is my wedding tattoo, and we each got the heart frame and then a bird for ourselves in it. You might think we would have gotten each other's birds, but that just didn't, this was just right for us. So I have a little hummingbird, a colibri, in mine. This is obviously wonderful for so many reasons, but also in terms of life and growth. Before I got my dragonfly tattoo, my very first one, I'd been thinking about getting a hummingbird. That was like my first tattoo idea. I'd like printed it out and drawn it on my legs and tried to henna it and was really into this idea of this hummingbird. And I don't really know how I went from hummingbird and like moved on from that. I just did. But how wonderful that this idea that came from honestly quite a dark place at the time, like I've kind of suggested earlier. And I did end up with a hummingbird tattoo, but in the most joyful, loving of ways at a time where, you know, that darkness really feels like a closed door and a distant memory. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. That was me. I feel like I just talked for a really long time. Oh, hi. Editing me here, just working through all this, and realized that I managed to forget a tattoo. Listen, happens to the best of us. And while I'm not striving for perfection here, because I would get nothing live, for the sake of completion, let me just mention that I have a back tattoo. I'll put a picture of it here. It's little sakura, like cherry blossoms up my back with a kind of sun ray. It's kind of it in different stages of bloom. I love it. I do wish I saw it more, because clearly I forget I have it. But yes, that exists. We're now complete. That's all I had to say. Back to the video. If you enjoyed listening to me, if you kind of felt like, I don't know, we connected on here in any kind of way and you just want to listen to some more, I'd say you're interested in the fashion, but I'm not really giving anything away here. If anything, these bra straps are probably driving some of you crazy. But I'll be back, so check it out when I'm back. See if it's more of what you want to see. Thank you for taking the time to listen to something that's super personal to me. Maybe you got inspired. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Any encouragement. If you're someone out there who just wants to do a good deed and wants to encourage me on this YouTube journey and just kind of fill my comment section with some encouragement rather than what I sometimes see on here, what we all see on here, I'd really appreciate that. It would mean a lot to me, and I'll pass it on to whoever I watch next. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. And hopefully this will be the not so bad pancake in a big old stack of videos to come.